Okay, guys, welcome to Illustrator, beginning vector design. Glad to have you guys here with me. And I've got a couple of people here with me, so super excited because sometimes I'll come and I'll have no one. So very excited to have some participants here hanging out with me. Makes life so much easier and so much more interesting when I have someone to interact with. All right, let me open the little chat window just in case I need it. Put it back there in the corner. All right, so what we're going to do is I want to actually start off with a little bit of introductions just for the people that are here if they would like to. Please know that that's a choice. I'm going to do like an overview of the class, talk about the assignment, assessment, discussion. I will go into a little bit of information about how the course is put together and how the information is stored in the system. I'm sure some of you guys have interacted with that a lot, but just want to make sure that you guys know exactly where to go to find a lot of the stuff that we're going to be using this mod. All right, so I'm going to check in with the other people in the class, and I'm curious if you guys would like to open your microphone, you can. If not, just type and I will interpret. And April, I did close your microphone off earlier, so you just have to unmute yourself. April Foy. Anybody want to tell me what classes you've taken before and what you'd like to achieve out of this class? Typing is fine. I can interpret for you. Or speaking is also lovely. I can't tell if someone's typing either, so sorry. Oh, hope they don't want to say anything, I guess. All right. Well, let me, we'll see if they jump in here in just a second. Oh, beginning design in Photoshop for April Foy. Awesome. Excellent. So this is kind of at the beginning for you guys, which I would anticipate. Normally it's like the third class or so that people take in the process. I think that you'll notice that there is some similarities between Photoshop and there's some differences between Photoshop. Oh, I guess I should move my microphone closer to my mouth. Another thing that you guys will notice is there is that conversation of vector versus raster that we had in Photoshop, and you'll also have in here. And it's just because it's an important concept. We want to make sure that you guys get that idea down pretty solidly. I just taught Photoshop 3 mods ago, something like that. So I do remember what that one was entailing specifically. All right. This is probably my favorite application, to be honest. This is the one that I have the most fun working with and teaching. It is probably the most fun just in general for me. And I think as you guys are working through this, if you are an artist yourself, then this is probably going to be a super fun program for you. All right. So I want to talk to you guys about how to find information. Maybe I'll pop over there real quick and just kind of pop back and forth. Now I am teaching 2 sections this mod, so you may see a number here at the end that might change. So some of you are in section 3 and some of you are in section 4. So if you see me pop through in a discussion post and you don't see it in yours, it's just because you might be in the other section. All right, so right here where it says live session, this is a great place to go to find where to be here. And obviously you guys figured that out. So you know that this is where you need to be. And then right here is the session link if you need it. And then each week you want to be watching a video. And here is the video that you would want to watch each week. So there's a pre-inserted one in there. What they're going to do is they're going to go over a few more of the specific tools that we use each week in the program. And my assumption is that you're watching it, and then if I'm duplicating something, that's fine. But you could see this is the stuff that they're covering. So the history, raster versus vector, art versus pages, and then just the interface and stuff like that. Now, the other place that you can go to find information and videos, which can be super helpful, you do have access to, let me find it. You do have access to, where's the videos? Videos reading, there it is. You do have access to lynda.com. And if you guys have never heard of lynda.com, they're very good at teaching technical things. So there's a lot of lynda.com videos in here. You guys can click on that to get the access to the portal. And then they'll have the videos that are located in there for your class. If I remember correctly, I think they have it set up that if you watch the videos that are part of the class, that you'll be able to complete a certificate in Illustrator, which can go on your resume. And that's a good thing for sure, and have those elements kind of covered. So there's different videos in here. So if you find yourself kind of struggling with a specific tool, then you can go watch the lynda.com video for that. But it also will give you that certification or certificate and give you some additional basics about the program. And then there's week 2, and there's week 3, week 4. So this class does also rely on lynda.com as part of their course curriculum. There is a short biography about me in here, so just so you guys can see it, there's the bio. And my background, there's a little picture of me. It's a few years old. I don't look like that right now. But the videos that are located in here, my particular background is working with companies that need specific support, and I teach them just what they need to know. So I don't teach them everything that they need to know for the program. I focus on what skills they need. So one of the ones I put in here is Zach and Zadie, and I help them develop the guy's a cartoonist, and I was working with another lady, and they were creating these cartoons. He draws them, and then she and I went through and clean up the images, and we take out the text that he typed. Turns out his handwriting almost looks exactly like Comic Sans. So that was pretty fortuitous for us because we're actually pretty much duplicating his handwriting. And then we took it into Photoshop, cleaned up the image, took out the text. Then we took it into Illustrator, into this program. We got rid of extra lines and stuff that were stored in there and put the text back in. And then in InDesign, we set up master pages and things to set up the comics and just slid them into the document and got everything set up to run. And they're on their 3rd one now. So I helped them with the first one. I helped them just a little bit with the second one. Just most recently, I helped them with the 3rd one. So Zach and Zadie was the first one that they completed, and just to give you an idea of the process that we had to go through. So I have some of their comics on there. He's very funny. So if you watch, check out his their website, you can see some pretty funny stuff. It's very dry sense of humor, but it's funny to me. And then my job outside of teaching here, I teach communication classes on campus, which means I teach public speaking. I know, pretty exciting, right? Public speaking, but I do that probably the most of my time. That's what I do. And then I'm also a hypnotherapist and life coach. I keep myself super busy, and so emails are the best way of contacting me and staying in touch with me, just because I'm often teaching or working with the client, and it goes off to my Google one, and I can't always find it. So it's much better to email me, and I will email you back generally within 24 to 48 hours. If it takes me longer than that, then email me again, and I will make sure I get back with you. So sorry, I try to keep in mind that you guys don't have much else, like a ton of contact with me. But the other thing I want to point out to you guys is the Student Success Center right here. How many of you guys have gone to the Student Success Center before? Have any of you used it? April voice says yes. Okay. Well, if you guys, the first time that you have to do it, you do have to download it. So there is some instructions here for how to get help in there. There's also IT support in here, but there's the hours of operation. Pretty good hours. Hi, Kristen. Pretty good hours of operation there for them. So if you look in here for graphic design, and even if you need it for your English class or whatever, you'll find that you can access them for English, for history, for psychology, for, I'm trying to think of the other ones you guys take, business management. So all those classes. And you'll see that the hours do change a little bit based on which week it is. Obviously, they're not in today because you guys haven't learned anything yet. So they don't actually come in until Tuesday. And notice that they're there till Saturday. They're not there on Sundays because you would have turned in your work on Saturdays. And they're there for pretty extensive hours if you look in there. So very helpful. And they're graphic designers and they teach all levels. So they definitely got you guys mastered at this level as far as what your needs are. The very first time that you go in there, you do have to download some software. So once you download that software, then you'll click here to enter, and then it will run for you automatically. And you'll just log in like this and just type your name in there. And then they'll allocate you to whatever room you need to go into based on which one you're going into, graphic design or English or history or whatever. Okay. So pretty cool and very useful, and I hope that you guys take advantage of that, because when you're online, you don't have the access to the teacher that's sitting right there holding your hand. So you want to have that availability of someone that can support you, even if you are a little confused. Don't sit there and be confused. That's not very nice. It's much nicer to have someone there to support you and answer questions for you. All right, so we're going to work on a couple things. We're going to start off with an assignment, which these are the criteria for it. So you'll look at this, and it's got 3 artboards. So the artboard number 1 is going to have these elements. Artboard number 2 is going to have these elements. Artboard number 3 will have these. So when we're going through and taking a look at these, you're just going to make sure that each of these elements show up on your system. Now the assessment is one that you want to read through the information. There's 2 essay questions that are at least 50 words. So make sure that they are at least 50 words, because that is one of the things I look at. I do score it that way. There are important elements in the responses. So what you can do that might be helpful for you, I'll have to see if we can look in the grading rubric in there, but the grading rubric can be really helpful. Maybe I'll post something to make it a little easier for you. Now the discussion this week is looking at vector versus raster, and they're looking at a couple of scenarios. They're looking at web designer A and designer B, and they're looking at the circumstances. So we'll talk our way through those, and I'll show you. I usually post a couple responses a week, so that should give you some idea what we're looking at. And then these are the locations and how things are stored. So I'll kind of walk through it, introduce you a little bit to familiarize yourself with the way that Illustrator is sort of set up. And the nice thing about it, again, if you've taken Photoshop like April has, then you'll notice that a lot of those elements are going to be the same. Even some of the hotkeys that you use in one program, you'll also use in the other programs. So very friendly that way. All right. So let's take a look at our week 1 stuff, and here's the discussion for this week. And I didn't actually, I don't remember putting in an introduction, so I'll have to go put something in there. So if you guys want to introduce yourself, that would be cool. So we're just looking at this idea of raster versus vector. So what do you guys know about raster versus vector so far? Anything that sticks out based on your knowledge base? So I know it was discussion that was happening in Photoshop as well. So what does this program offer, vector or raster? Correct. This program is for vector specifically. So if you look at the difference between these 2 images, this is a raster image. If we enlarge it, it gets this blurry thing. And we call it pixelizing. So you'll see small little squares that show up on the screen versus a vector image. Vector images are based on what they call the Bezier curve. I think it's Bezier, and that's the name of a person. And it's a mathematical formula, so whenever we enlarge something, it uses a mathematical formula to figure out how it needs to be enlarged so that it keeps the lines clean and crisp. So that's the beautiful thing about working with something in vector. So imagine that you're working with a logo, and logo raster is pix, yes. Vector, yes. Do you remember the example in the discussion post? Yes. So we look at this idea of something that's going to be used on a large element, like a billboard. The lines need to stay crisp. So taking something and making it be vector is a beautiful thing. And we do have tools inside of Illustrator that allow us to take a raster-based image and make it vector, but it's a little bit complicated and it won't necessarily come out exactly like you might expect it to. So that makes things a little bit more complicated when it comes to that one. But here's your prompt. The designer A specializes in web design. The thing to know about a web designer is that they're almost always going to be working in raster land. So things that are going to be viewed on the screen are generally going to be raster. They are oftentimes a lower resolution. If you have something that you bring in at a high resolution, it's going to take longer for it to load into a window, and most people aren't going to like that. They're not going to want to have to sit there and wait for an image to load. So in the old days, they used to chop them up and break them into pieces, and they would load in like little windows. But now what they do is they just make sure that they're using lower resolution images, which are generally 72 dpi or ppi, points per inch or dots per inch. And so they're going to be what they call lower resolution. There's less information inside of the image to worry about. When you are working in print, then you're generally going to be working around 300 dpi, ppi, so much higher resolution, meaning there's a lot more information stored in the image. And also, we try to work in vector land. So you're going to try to keep images, and you can take an image that's larger and make it smaller. The challenge we're going to have is if we take an image that's smaller and try to make it larger. If we try to stretch an image beyond its natural size, it won't come out well, especially if it's low resolution. If it's low resolution, you're not going to have much chance. But if you take a high resolution image and stretch it, you're still going to have problems, but at least there's more information there for it to pull from. Okay, so there's our scenarios. The first designer specializes in website. The second designer is a sign shop. So he's going to have to enlarge things. So this guy's probably working in rasterland, and designer B is working in vectorland. So designer A created a logo in Photoshop. So what's going to happen when designer B tries to use that? And so designer A created the logo in Photoshop. How will this affect designer B's needs? And what would designer need to do to be able to use the logo effectively? Then you discuss how you came to the solution. So one of the suggestions I can say to you guys is the first thing I would do when I do a discussion post is I would start by defining terms that you think are most important. In this case, we're going to define vector and we're going to define raster. So I would start by defining those two specific terms, and then I might go in to take a look at each of these elements. So they're asking you questions. I would make sure I'm answering each of those questions. I'm going to look at each one of these scenarios. How will this affect designer B? And then look at scenario 2. Designer A was created in Illustrator, but keep in mind it has drop shadows. How will that affect it? And the last one is discuss the similarities and differences between the two problems. So you basically have 3 different paragraphs at least, plus a paragraph that maybe defines vector versus raster. It is easier for me if you guys break things into paragraphs or even list the questions at the top, and then it makes it easier for me to see that you answered each of the questions individually, and it makes it faster for me to grade. If you think about it, when a Hey, I'm not sure how to say that. Tanikia. Tanikia. I don't know if I said that right. I probably messed it up. Anyway, you are going to need to put a citation in there. So you do want to do an APA format, and I have that down here below for you guys. So here's the information. Hi, how are you?
Hi.
Nice to see you. So down here at the bottom, I did create a response for you. So there, I did take a look, not necessarily at the question, but a lot of times my first post each week will be more oriented around giving you some additional information. And then I'll oftentimes create a second post that I will generally post on Tuesday that will give you another idea of maybe how to answer the questions that are listed there. So I try to do that in general. And then I do have at least one comment in each of the classes from somebody. So each of the sections does have at least one person that's posted. So yeah, and there's some examples right there. So that's great of raster versus vector. And so this is the pixeling that we're talking about, the little squares that show up. So good job, Paul. Paul made a post there. So good. All right. All right, so what we're going to do on this one is I'm going to talk you guys through working with Illustrator, and we're going to basically start with shapes. The big thing I would say to you with shapes is it's much better for you to start off with a shape and modify the shape from there than it is for you to have to try to hand draw the whole thing. So we're going to look at some elements today that we can pretty much create mostly with shapes. But we will be playing with some other tools in Illustrator because, again, this is the program that you guys get that helps the artists. So do I have any artists in here that are like drawers, painters, that create their own work and original work? I am not a professional artist, so that is not mine. I got a no from Kristen, a yes from April Foy. All right, cool. So I have a couple, I have at least one artist in here, and I'd be willing to bet between the two sections of the class. I probably have a good chunk of artists in here. Some of the best artists I've seen are tattoo artists. So some of those guys have some massive skills. All right, excellent. Yeah, Jerry agrees with me. Yeah, okay. So this is what we're going to use to help define our elements. And then there's going to be 3 artboards. So artboard number 1 is going to be just drawing some shapes. Artboard number 2 is also going to be drawing shapes. They're asking you to arrange the shapes in an interesting design on the artboard. So randomly placing them is not interesting. Creating some connection between them, that is interesting. So we do want to see if we can create some relationship between them, maybe by crossing them over each other, touching, creating a little image out of the shapes. Those would be all great ways of getting that done. And then when we get to artboard number 3, you guys will see that I have a series of 5 different images I can use, and I think I have it right here. These are the 5 images that we can choose from. So they match those right there. And you're going to choose one of these, and you're going to use shapes to create them. I'll demonstrate one of those for you. You're going to make sure you save out your files with the correct name. Don't put first name, last name, or stuff like that. Just actually put your first and last name in. I had one student that a couple mods ago, he's like, I think he thought he was funny, and he stuck his first and last name. He wrote first, last name. It doesn't help me when I'm grading. If I need to go back to a file, it's much easier for me to find your file if I have your name. So it's really more helpful to me than it is just to make you guys follow rules. It's really for me. Is Illustrator under Adobe? Yes. So if you guys go under your Creative Cloud, you should be able to go and grab the Illustrator from the same place and download the Illustrator files. I don't know if I have my Creative Cloud up anywhere. Now that's another thing I want to point out to you guys. I think a lot of you are on Macs. Do I have any Macs in here? I mean, let me say that differently. Are there anybody in here that's using a PC? The people that are doing the web design, graphic design, hybrid group are generally going to have a PC. Are the rest of you guys are Macs? Well, I'm going to be one of your few instructors that uses them that way. I usually try to say both keys. I usually try to say when there's something that's really unique between us, there is one element, which is preferences, that is in a different location for the two of us. But for the most part, there's a great deal of similarity between the way it looks in Illustrator and the way it looks in Photoshop. If we use the Control key in PC land, you're going to use the Command key on a Mac. If we use Alt in a PC, you're going to use Option in Mac. The Shift pretty much stays the same. The rest of that is pretty similar. There are, like I said, just a few differences inside of Illustrator that make it slightly different, but all the other videos that you're going to watch are going to be on a Mac. So this is the only one. Okay, so this is an example of what you're going to see in here. So the assignment is going to say do 8.5 by 11. It's going to have you do 3 artboards. Artboard number 1 has you do a 5-point star, a 7-point star, 10-point star, a 2-inch, and a 2-inch ellipse, a 2-inch rectangle right there, and it's going to come up with a 3-sided polygon. I'll show you how to do that. I'm confused because of the AI on the app. Adobe Illustrator is what it stands for. So that's why it says AI. On the second artboard, it's going to ask you to do at least 2 stars, 2 rectangles, 2 ellipses, 2 polygons. I'm trying to think if there was anything else on there. And you'll notice that they did more on here. There's 2 polygons, 2 rectangles, but there's more than 2 stars. Perfectly fine. Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, sometimes that stuff, as a teacher, we don't always know what's confusing for people. Now, this one is not right. Drawing like little circles is not right. You're actually going to recreate the cute little bear. So I'm not sure what these little blue circles are on here, but okay. Your job is to recreate it. I look at your files. You're going to give me the Illustrator file, so I actually look at your files. Okay, so the rectangles, the ellipse, this is a second example. 5-star, 7-star, 5-star, 7-star, 10-star, and a triangle. This one is another example of multiple ellipses, multiple rectangles, multiple polygons, and multiple stars. Not sure where the second polygon is, we'd have to look at that. And then they redrew this kitty. So we can look at the pieces and parts on that. If you guys look down here, this is just another way of seeing how things are put together. Under each of the assignments, there are grading rubrics inside of here. This is another way of sort of making this be a checklist, so you can see how you do that. And then based on how I grade, I actually put your comments inside of the grading rubric. So don't place them anywhere else. I'll just say, please go see the grading rubric, because I actually place your comments inside of there. So you need to click on it in order to see what comments I placed inside. I try to be relatively detailed so that you know how to fix things next. Okay, and then here's the quiz. Again, there are 2 questions in there. They both deal with vector versus raster. So maybe make sure that you're really knowledgeable about that. Making sure you understand that it's a mathematical formula, that if you take its scalability, so if you keep an image generally at the size that it was put in at, you're not going to have as many problems, but if you enlarge it and make it beyond the normal size, then it's going to be a little bit more of a challenge. Okay. questions for me on anything that's hanging out here in the classroom in Canvas? Okay, I'm not seeing anything show up here, so I'm going to go with that. All right. Let's go hang out inside of Illustrator. So this is Illustrator, and when we go here, one of the big differences that you guys have on your Macs is that it actually says Illustrator up here in the corner, and mine actually does not. So mine looks just a little bit different. Another thing that's a little bit different is if you click right here, I'm going to go to Edit. You guys are going to click right here on your AI. If you go here, you can come down to Preferences, just choose General. And there's a couple things that you might want to set up first. I will leave this part checked, Show Tools. I took off double-click to isolate. I'll turn it on for now just to show you what it looks like, and I will immediately turn it back off because I'm not a fan, but I learned Illustrator in like 2002, and we didn't have that, and it just makes me a little crazy. So I think for you guys, you might enjoy it. Down here, you'll notice that my background in my Illustrator is light colored. That's the way I grew up with it. If you would prefer to have yours light versus dark, you can come over here to User Interface and lighten up your background. Right here where it says Units, you might change yours to inches. If you do it when you have a document open, oftentimes it will only change that one document. If you do it when there's no documents open, oftentimes it will change it so that every time you open a new document, it will automatically be set up correctly. Stroke and type, I would leave in points because those are the natural ones that we end up discussing. So that's the normal way of doing it. But you might change, all the assignments that we give you are in inches, so you might leave that in inches. I'll show you an easy way to change it later, but know that that's pretty straightforward. There's other things in here like how you deal with the pencil, how you deal with type, how to work with guides and grids, so you can change colors and things in here. And then a lot of these other ones I don't use very often, but just know that you have options inside of here to make changes to things, and so your preferences are where you're going to go. So again, if you're on a PC, you're going to go to Edit and Preferences. If you're on a Mac, you'll click on your little icon right here in the corner that says Illustrator, and it will drop down and give you the option for preferences from there. Okay, we're going to go right here. It says Create New. All these ones down here at the bottom are just old documents, so I can just choose them from here if there's something that I've been working on recently. Create New. Let me walk you through a little bit of the anatomy here of going through here. So you'll see different sizes. Notice right here I can change it to inches, points, picas, millimeters, centimeters, pixels. So I can make the change right here. So if for some reason it's not set up correctly, I can make the change right here to change it back to inches. You can set up your orientation if you want it landscape or portrait. So there's landscape, there's portrait. The number of artboards, I'm just going to go ahead and leave it at 1 now. I'll show you in just a few how to change it to 3. Okay, so a bleed is when you want to have something, a design, and you want to carry it off the edge of the page. So for the most part, when you guys are typing something and you're looking at a book has margins around the outside. But if you look at the cover has color that goes all the way to the edge of the page. So what they do is they actually create a bleed, and the bleed will go beyond the edge of the page. And the printer will know to print on a slightly larger sheet of paper, and then he also knows to trim off the edge so that your color goes all the way to the edge of the paper. A printer isn't really able to print to the edge of the page. What it will always do is it will bump you in about 1/8 of an inch on each side, leaving you with a white edge. So if you create a bleed, then the printer knows you need to save it out in the proper format, but the printer would know that you created a bleed, and they know that they need to trim that off so the color goes to the edge. Another thing to notice is right here you have something that looks like a chain link. If I increase all my sizes, it's linked together, it will increase all of them. If I uncheck the link, then I can increase one independent of the others. Okay. So I'll leave the bleed on just so I can show you what it looks like. So we mentioned before, when you print something, it's going to be a little bit different. So in print form, things are coming in RGB. It stands for red, green, blue. And red, green, blue are what your screen is made up of. So if you look at a screen, a TV screen, your computer screen, it's made up of a bunch of little red, blue, and green dots. If it's a high definition TV, then it has a lot more little red, green, and blue dots so that it has more information and can have more detail. So that's something that's going to be viewed on a screen would be red, green, blue, RGB. CMYK is going to be set up for prints. C stands for cyan, M for magenta, Y for yellow, K for black. So this would be CMYK. This is set up for something that's going to be printed. You'll notice your resolution. I mentioned to you 72 dpi would often be something that's going to be on the screen. 300 dpi is going to be something that's going to be viewed, is going to be something that's going to be printed. If you create something, it's probably better to start it out with a higher resolution, and you can always make it smaller, but it's not so easy to change it the other direction. So just in general, starting over the high resolution can be better for you. There's your 72 dpi if you need it. I'm going to leave mine at 300. That means everything that I'm going to create is going to be at a high resolution. And then you have different settings in here that you can play with. This is basically just looking at the screen in a different format. This is the older version of how to look at the screen. There are some cool templates in here, so that's another fun thing to look at. If you want to do like a CD case or business cards or t-shirts, things like that, they actually have those templates in here. All right, we're going to just go ahead and create it. I'm going to talk you guys through what this looks like. All right, so in looking at this, what you'll see is the edge of my page. You'll notice a red line right there, and that's called the bleed. If I'm going to design something, and let's just say I'm going to pull out a shape, I'm going to pull it all the way to the edge of that bleed. And it doesn't matter if I go beyond it, that's fine, because it's going to be trimmed off anyway. And this is the normal size for a bleed, so I just leave the default. If you need to, you would check with your printer to find out how big he wants you to set the bleed at, and you can take care of it that way. All right. So let me kind of walk you guys through what you're going to see here, just as far as your desktop here. The first thing I want to point out is we have our upper window up here, which is going to give you a lot of the tools that you might want to get. So file and open, this is copy and paste. This is where a lot of our tools are stored. Right here, you guys will see that I have what they call different workspaces. So I can set up my workspaces the way that I want to. My favorite one that I generally hang out in is Essentials Classic. And this gives me different panels over here. So I want you guys to see as I click through them. I'm going to click through a couple of them. You'll notice that my toolbar over here generally doesn't change, but my panels over here on the side will change. So if I go to typography, which is the one I was just on, you'll see that that one changed. It's going to have my type information up here at the top. There's my color. Here are my layers right here. If I go back to my Essentials Classic, Actually, let's go to Essentials just so you can see that one. And this brings up my property panel. Essentials Classic is the one I got used to in the olden days. We didn't used to have the properties or library here before, but it's fine. It doesn't get in my way, and it can be really helpful when you guys get to doing some of your last assignments. Having this here can be super valuable because you can see information, make changes to your size and shape right here. Okay, let me start over here. Oh, this one right here is called the application bar. So it's the one right underneath. So you'll see as I change things, I'm going to click on type. And you'll see that it added character and paragraph and started working with the stroke. If I go to my shapes, you'll see that it changes again. And things are going to be focused on the stroke again. It'll be focused on the document setup. It might be focused on some of the elements of working with my shapes. Let me see if I can find other ones that are going to change this. Let's see. I'm not sure if that one, if symbols will, symbol sprayer. Let's do brush stroke. That one will change it. Not by much. Okay. So you're going to see a lot of these, some of these things are going to change depending on which tool you have selected over here, and that will modify your application bar over here. Then my panels over here are going to give me a way to sort of play with things, and they're going to change again depending on which one of these workspaces that you have set up. You can also create your own workspace, and right here, you click on New Workspace, and you can name it whatever you want to, and that gives you another way to work with that. Okay, so most of you guys, if you double click on this toolbar right here, that's probably what you guys have, is that long skinny toolbar. And for some people that works out great. I have a tendency to have multiple applications open at the same time. Right now I'm tutoring somebody on InDesign. So you might see InDesign at the bottom of my screen because I'm tutoring somebody and that, a businessman in InDesign. So that is, so you might see some other applications open. And when I go to shrink up my window because I'm teaching or whatever, then I don't lose my toolbar. It doesn't fall off the end of my page. So it stays there, and so for me, it works better to have it double. So it's just double clicking on this piece right here. And I think, I don't know, no. Let's not be on this one. All right. So I'm going to stop for a second, and I'm curious, those of you guys who have taken Photoshop, if there's any of the tools that you recognize over here in my toolbar that look familiar to you. Anything that looks familiar to you. Also, if you have any questions, this would be a great time to ask them. A lot of them? Good. What specific ones do you see that look familiar? And I think it ends up being a little bit of a challenge for you all in this beginning. So pen tool, gradient, eyedropper, text, quick select, pen tool. We don't really have the quick select, but we have a selection tool right here. You guys are exactly correct. Eyedropper, exactly. So that's sometimes the thing you want to think about is, as you're paying attention to these, or what are the things that are similar between the programs I've seen before, and what are the things that are different? What's happened over time is initially when I started learning graphic design, Photoshop was pretty much for editing images. Illustrator was pretty much for taking care of drawing and creating something new. InDesign was relatively new. We were actually still learning Quark Express back then. And then InDesign just surpassed it very quickly. But InDesign is really made for page layout. So as you go through and you learn these different programs, you learn what's similar between them, and you learn what's different. But what's happened over time is they've crossed things over. So some of the things that used to only be located in Photoshop are now also located in InDesign and Illustrator. Is they're just in different places. And now you can do vector-based drawings in Photoshop, and you didn't used to be able to do that. Pen tool didn't used to exist in Photoshop. So those things have all changed over time. And there's a little bit more crossover between the programs. And you might just find that you have some that end up being your favorites just because of what you're trying to do. And some might be just your go-to program. I'm going to pretty much do most of my designing in Illustrator and InDesign just because they're my favorites. Okay. All right. So you guys ready to do some stuff? Let's get her done. So one thing that can be kind of fun when you're working with this is if you can watch this on a tablet and then also follow along. But if I ever need to share your screen, I do need to have you guys on the same computer that this is on. So just to let you know. Okay. So right here, these up here are at the top. This one, right, this group of 4 up here at the top are generally some kind of selection tool. These little dudes right here are generally creation tool. These ones can be modification tools. The width tools, modification. Some of these are going to deal with unusual things like color. Some unusual tools, the artboard tool. These are going to be tools that are going to help you move around on the screen. So zoom in, and then your hand tool. I'll try to teach you hotkeys and talk you through the hotkeys as we go. But if you have it turned on and you put your cursor over it, you'll notice that the little clues show up on the screen as you're going through. These right here are your color chips. So if we click on our color, this is a fill, this is a stroke. Split screen is not working well, both of them. I gotcha. Not a problem. Some people just go back later and watch it, so it's really okay either way. Okay, so I'm going to click on 3 things, and I want you guys to see that I can pull up color from 3 different places. I actually can bring up a 4th one here. I can do color from here. I can do color from my swatches. I can do color from my application bar. I can do color from here. You're going to act a little bit different. If I choose color from the swatches, whatever one's on top, the fill or the stroke, that's the one that's going to get the color if I choose the swatches over here, okay? You'll notice that the color just changed up here on this application bar and also changed over here. If I choose it from here, this adds the color to this fill, and this one has the color to the stroke. Now you can't really see it, it's only 1 point, so let me bump it up and let you really see it. Now another thing I can do is I can flip these 2 colors. So right here, this little arrow guy right here, I can click on that and flip the colors back and forth. I think I got like a party going on here or something. You'll notice right here, this is going to give me the last color that was used. This is going to set it back to default, which is a white fill, black stroke. This right here takes the color off whichever one's on top, okay? Like that. This one right here is going to take, if I choose that, it's going to take the color off whichever one I have selected at that moment. And this one right here is going to take whichever one's on top. And then if I choose my properties over here, again, I click on this, it gives me my swatches, and I can choose my colors from here. There's my stroke, there's my number for my stroke, there's my stroke. I'm going to show you one more place to see stroke. Now, why do they have them in so many different places? They have stuff in many different places because of the way that your workflow goes. You may be hanging out over here with the mouse, and it might be easier for you to choose from here. Maybe it's easier to choose from your swatches. Maybe it's easier to choose from here. I'm going to show you just a second what this looks like. But notice there's different ways of doing this. Okay, So notice that a lot of the things that are here on my panel also match what I have right here. If I make changes here, you'll make changes over here. So if I change the type of stroke I have, I'm going to click on it right here. You'll notice that it changes right here. And what this does is make it thick. Then let me bump up my stroke. I'll just do it from here. That's fine. So I chose one that goes thin, thick, thin. So it goes thin, thick, thin. So that's going to play with my stroke. So let's take a look at what happens to my color chip over here. If I double click on my color chip over here, it brings up my color picker. This gives me a lot more variability as far as where I'm choosing my colors from. Let's say I picked a color and I like the color, but I want to make it be a deeper red. I go more down here towards the black. So this means I'm going to tint it. I'm going to shade it. This means I'm going to shade it. So if I add black to it, I'm shading it. If I add more white to it, I'm going to tint it. So now it becomes more of a pink color. You'll also notice I can put the CMYK color in here, the red, green, blue color. This is called hexadecimal. This is oftentimes what they use in the internet, like building up websites. And then HSB is hue, saturation, and bright. Hue, saturation, and I can't remember what the B is. Hue, saturation, and can't remember. But we're going to hit OK, and it's going to change my inside to pink. Good so far? We'll give them a second to type. All right, so what we're going to be working with this week is we're going to be working with these shapes. So another element to notice is anytime you see a triangle in the lower corner, it means that there's more tools there. Also, I can pull these out, and it lets me have that there. If I close it, it doesn't go away over here. It just snaps back inside. If I close a panel on this side, let's just say that I pull off stroke, I close stroke, I go, oh no, I need stroke back. I can either go to window and go back and grab my stroke again. I can just slide it back up inside there. That. Or pull stroke off again. I can come back up here and reset Essentials Classic, and it pulls my stuff back to the way it was before, and my information will be available again. You'll notice that I'm kind of just pulling things around. You notice you can pull these things off. You can mix and match them the way that you want to. So let me just add Pathfinder down here. On those Pathfinder, I just want to bring Pathfinder in here. I'm just going to slide it right underneath. And it just becomes a part of my toolbar. That way, if I need to realign things or transform them, I have those tools right there to play with. So this is very interactive, changeable. I think one of the biggest challenges with changing your workspace all the time is that things end up in different places. So that wouldn't really work for me. I like my layers at the bottom of my screen. I like my colors at the top. So I have an anticipation of where things are located, and you don't want to slow yourself down by trying to figure out where things are located. So what you might do is, if you have different jobs, maybe if you have just a couple, maybe create a couple of workspaces that aren't going to be too complicated for what you're doing. All right, so you guys mentioned some of the things that you saw: type tool, pen tool, eyedropper, hand tool is going to be the same. The zoom tool is going to be the same. Color chips are going to be the same, and they're going to act a little bit different because we do have the stroke in here versus the foreground and background colors. I think line tool might, I don't remember if line tool's there, but the selection, direct selection tool, I call them the black arrow and white arrow tools. Those are also in Photoshop, but they're underneath each other. All right, so let's go and start off with our assignment for this week and see if we can get this piece set up for you. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go here to File, New, According to the instructions, I have to make it 8.5 by 11. I don't need a bleed, so I'm going to pop the bleed down on that. I'm going to do 3 artboards so you guys can see what it looks like. I'm going to go ahead and create. So what you'll see is I have created 3 artboards here. If I need to make changes to it, there's the artboard tool right here. I'm going to click on it. You'll notice my application bar changes up here. I can see the size. I can make changes to the size right here. So let's just say I want to make this 5 by 5 by 11. I can make that change right here inside of the box. Hit Command or Control Z. Maybe not. There we go. I can create a new artboard in here. So if I click on this little piece of paper right here, I can add a new artboard and I can move it wherever I want to. So this gives me the opportunity to make changes to that. And again, if I want to make a change to it, let's just say I want to make it be 2 by 3. Makes it like a business card size. I could change it to landscape. So this gives me a little bit of control over what happens. If you click over here on the side, you're going to notice that you do have layers and then you have artboards. So if I click on each artboard, this is artboard 1. Click on the numbers. That's how it easily accesses it. 3, artboard 4. So this is my little business card right here. If you want to be able to move around on the desktop, you can do 2 things. You can use Zoom, or you can hit Command or Control plus, or Command and Control minus to move away. If you're using the Zoom tool, it's Z on the keypad. If I hold down the Alt or Option key, it allows me to move away. If I leave it alone, it allows me to zoom in. So if I need to back off, Alt or Option, allow me to back off. Other hotkeys, it would be A and V up here for my direct selection and selection tool. So V and A. Let me show you the difference between these 2 tools. Go to artboard number 1. I'm going to leave my layers open. I want you guys to see what happens as I create things. Layers are extremely important in Illustrator. Whatever is on top is going to be what's viewable. So there's going to be 2 things that can happen. I'm just going to draw a rectangle here. You'll notice that what happens is a path is created down here underneath. I'm going to give it a stroke and a fill. Bump up the stroke, give it some tooth. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use these 2 tools and I want to demonstrate the difference between them. Black arrow tool or selection tool gives you control over the entire object. The direct selection tool is going to let you choose an individual object. So here's my selection tool. You notice that I can put my cursor on the corner here and it gives that little curve thing so I can rotate it. I can click and drag out and it's going to modify the entire shape of my object. So this is for modifying an entire object. If I want to make a change to something else, and you guys are noticing that all my stuff's changing over here too. So it's there, you can see a lot of stuff going on here. I'm going to use my direct selection tool and I'm going to show you how this is different. I need to click off of it so that nothing's selected. If you try to do it while it's selected, it just gets confused. So I'm going to put my cursor over this and you'll see that that point turns white. If I'm someplace else on the line, it won't turn white. There's an anchor point here that allows me to modify this. I'm going to click right on the anchor point. I'm going to pull out. So you'll see that I'm actually modifying just an individual point rather than the entire object. If you hold down the Shift key when you're creating a shape, what it's going to do is it's going to create that shape as a perfect shape. So if you do an ellipse, it'll be a perfect circle. If you do a rectangle, it'll be a perfect square. So you get those elements and they end up being perfectly shaped. Okay. Inside of here, I actually have a convert anchor tool. Used to be called convert anchor tool, now it's just called the anchor point tool. Now I'm going to click and I'm going to drag across it. You kind of have to pay attention to see how it's crossing over each other. Just have to rotate it. And it creates this line that was straight into a curve. Now, this is going to be part of the pen tool that we're going to talk about. You're going to use the direct selection tool or wide arrow tool. And then you're going to place it right here on top. And you're going to notice that you can play with these handles to create some different effects with the way that your line looks. The closer the handle is to the line, the straighter the line. The further out, the more curved the line is. And you'll notice right here, if I turn it one way, the handle on the other side is going to modify. So next week, we're going to play with the pencil, and I'll show you a little bit more about how to work with that. But just to introduce you to the idea of the anchor point, which is right here. So it gives me a hollow tip on the lower part of my white arrow tool. And then these are called the handles. So the handles allow me to modify that point. I can pick up a point and move it, or I can click over here and move my points. Okay, anything that you guys want me to repeat or go back over? And please feel free to just pop in there if you'd like to. You're welcome to open your microphone if you have a question and you don't want to sit there and wait. Okay. Looks like you guys are doing okay. All right. So the first thing that we're going to do, and I mentioned some of this stuff to you guys, so this is called marquee. So I'm going to click and drag over the object and go to the other end of the object. I'm just going to delete it. Wait. Sorry, I've got a cat on my lap here. That's the fun part about being home. Okay, let me show you another trick. If I want to select something, I'm not sure why it's not selecting from there, but it's okay. If I want to select something and I want to just get that one, I can click right here on my layers panel where the circle is. You'll also notice I have the little rectangles next to it. If I create new layers and I want to move it from one layer to the next, I can literally just click and drag it onto the next layer. I'm just going to delete that for now. Okay, so one of the things that it's telling you in the instructions is that it does want you to create a star. So I'm actually going to pull this off like this. And all I did was click on it. I didn't do anything magic with it. I just put my cursor over it and clicked on it, and it pulled itself off. I want to create a perfect rectangle. So I told you guys I can do a perfect rectangle by holding down the Shift key. And then a lot of times, I'm not sure what I don't have turned on right now, but it's not giving me, normally will give me, numbers to show me where I'm at, but it's not a problem. Right here, I can change my height and my width to make it be 2 inches exactly. So I'm going to make it be 2 and 2. So I just made a perfect square by just using my numbers over here on the side. Now I'm going to do the same thing with an ellipse. I can just do it here. Hold on the Shift key. It's going to constrain proportions. Oh, I bet I know what I need to do. Okay, and then I'm just going to make this by 2 by 2. If you hit Command or Control R, Command or Control R, it brings up your ruler. And the ruler, nope, still not doing it. Sometimes it will give you like little icons showing in the corner the size that you're making it, and then you can kind of see to control it, but not playing right now, so that's not a problem. Okay, so I've just done what the instructions say. The instructions say I want you to create a rectangle and I want you to create an ellipse. And they both need to be 2 inches. So we'll play with the colors in just a second, but at least I'm getting the elements created and then I'll create a relationship between them. You'll notice the star right here. I'm going to click and drag out this star. Now there's a couple things I can do with my star. I can hold down the Command key and you'll see what it's doing. I'm not letting go of the Command key. I'm still holding it down. at the same time I'm clicking and dragging. Now I'm using a mouse, guys. If you don't have a mouse, I'm going to tell you from my perspective, it makes my life a whole lot easier. If you want to be master of your trackpad, that's also cool. But I want to beat people up if I have a lot of challenges with that. So I use a mouse. And then a lot of times I use a Wacom or Wacom tablet, which makes my life a lot easier. You had to go buy one. When we work with the pencil next week, you're going to appreciate the fact that you have a mouse, because the pencil will make you crazy using just the trackpad. But there's some people that become the master of their universe with their pencil. So right now I'm just holding down the Command or Control key. If you hold on the Alt key, you'll see you get a different effect. Here's the Shift key. So just kind of constraining the proportions. So you can kind of play with that. Okay. Now, I want you guys to locate the number keys that are generally on the right-hand side of the screen. And right next to them, you're going to notice a left, right, up, and down arrow. You bought a knockoff one? Yeah. They sure make life a lot easier. And there's different types out there, and then there's some cool things you can do with them inside your brushes. Okay, so locate your number keys over there on the side, and you're going to see the up, down, left, right arrows. All I'm going to do is I'm still holding down the mouse. I'm going to hit the up arrow. And what you'll notice is that it's adding additional numbers to my star. So now I have 6 points, and I'm going to hit the up arrow again. Now I have 7, now I have 8, now I have 9, now I have 10. So one of my stars needs to be a 10-point star. So this would be an example of a 10-point star. If I go drag out another one, I can hit the down arrow and take off 3 points, and now I have a 7-point star. And I'm going to drag out another one. I'm going to hold on the Control key, make it look more like a star. I'm going to hit the down arrow twice more and create my star. Now this is also popping up, so I also have the opportunity, if I double click on, let me actually just do it so you guys can see. If I use my black arrow tool and I double click, maybe, I'll use my star key. Okay, so this helped me demonstrate this so I can turn this off now. Now you guys will notice that all of a sudden this thing came up. And if I were to go try to do anything with these other ones on the screen, nothing else comes up. This is called isolation mode. You'll notice that on my layers panel over here. So I can double click out of this to get out of it. I can right click on this, exit it, and I think you can just double click on, and just double click on the screen to get rid of it as well. So let me see. Double click out. I just double clicked on the edge of my star, and that gives me the opportunity to create it here. And I can be as specific as I want to. So if I want to do a 2x2 star with 5 points, I can now hit OK. Oh, there you go. That's kind of fun looking. I must have been changing something different than I thought I was. But anyway, this is an example of what that looks like. So let me draw a polygon. And one of the instructions asks you to do a polygon where you make it into a triangle. So remember I told you about the arrows, left, right, up, down? So now I'm drawing a polygon. I'm hitting the down arrow twice, 3 times, and there's my triangle. So these are the shapes that they're asking you to create on your artboard for the artboard number 1. Now we're just going to go change the color on them, and the instructions also ask that you choose no stroke. So we're going to choose no stroke. And then I'll leave this one pink. This one, no stroke. And we'll make this one be yellow. And this one, no stroke. And we'll have this one be blue. This one, no stroke. We'll have it be orange. No stroke. green. I'm going to do this one from over here just so you guys get a chance to see it. Notice that the color I have on top is going to be my fill color. Kind of blue-green, and I'm going to click on my stroke down here and turn off the color. So I can do it that way as well. Okay, let me build a relationship between these shapes. I think I'm going to stack these. Put that one inside of there. And make this one be bigger. And I can't change the size of these two, but I can change the size of everything else. It doesn't have to be perfect, so I'm going to rotate this around. I can use my tools here to rotate. I can also go up here to Object, Transform, and Rotate as well from here. See if I can get this to be. Okay, so it just went to 0% skew right here. Okay, and I think I want to put these on here. Now, if I want to stick some things together and make them stick with each other, I'm going to group them. So let me show you how you do that. Pull this out just a little bit more. Hold down my Shift key to constrain proportions. It keeps it from changing up to down, left to right. Okay, and then I'm going to go up here and choose both of these two together. Bring up my layer so you guys can see what it does. I'm going to choose two layers. I'm going to choose this one. Let me open this up a little bit more so you guys can see it. And this one right here. Okay, so right here you'll see that I have the boxes next to those two layers. I'm going to go to Object and Group. I can also hit Command G. So if I click up here, Group, Control, or Command G will allow me to group those together. Now if I click on that and I look inside, you'll see my two shapes in there. But now if I click on it to move it around, they both move together. I don't have to worry about one getting off from the other one. So I'm kind of making a little Christmas tree-ish thing. I'm going to group these two together as well. Command or Control G. Place it on top of this. Okay, and then I can choose them from here as well. I'm going to group again. Command or Control G. So maybe I'll make this like a ball at the bottom. Okay, so watch what happens here. Now you guys will notice that I have a little bit of a problem. If something disappears in Illustrator Land, there's two things that could be the issue. The first issue could be that you don't have any color on it. So I can create a shape here and create a shape with no color. Okay, so I create a shape here, and it doesn't mean that the shape's not there. If I click off of it, it doesn't look like it's there. If I put my cursor back over it, you can see that it is there. So if something disappears that I don't anticipate, one of two things could go wrong. I don't have any color on it, or it's behind another layer. So take a look at my layers over here. There's a couple different ways I can do this. One way I can do this is I can go up here to Object, Transform, and I can tell it to, Arrange. I can send to back. So I'm going to send to back. To actually choose which one I'm going to send it back though. I want to send this one to back. So Object, Arrange, send to back. Now you can see my shape, or I can hit Command G, or Command Z, sorry, and I can just pick it up and drag it behind, boop, like that. So you'll see if I do that, I go to Object, Arrange, and send to back, it does that within my layers anyway. So maybe I want to have this off to the side. I can't change the size because remember I have to have my ellipse and my rectangle be 2 inches. But it kind of looks a little bit like Christmas tree-ish. Right. Okay, now I'm going to actually do these two right here. I don't want that triangle, so if I lock it, I can lock it right there, get rid of it so it doesn't play with what I'm doing. I didn't take it off the screen. It's just not active right now. Maybe I want to make this be smaller. I know we're a little past Christmas, but this is what came to me when I was looking at it. Now, if you want to have fun and you want to put a background behind something, what you can do is you're just gonna zoom out just a hair. Right, Alt. I'm just gonna get a rectangle. I'm gonna click and drag it across. Okay. Now it's got this kind of funky orange on it, which is fine for now. And you'll notice I can't see anything behind it. Again, I can just send it back. So watch over here on this one as I go to Object, Arrange, Send it back. It moved itself down in my layers. And now I have this element that goes there. Okay, so let me, I guess I keep it the right size. So let me choose it from here. Make this be larger. I'm really okay with you having more shapes. I just don't want you to have less. You just have to have a mandatory of those. And if you want to have some additional shapes included, that's fine. Okay, I'm going to choose this one. Put it on top of the tree. This one I feel like it's a gift. All right, questions? Let's just type them in as we go, okay, because I'm watching. I just want to pause for a second if you're kind of stuck. Artboard number 2, I can click it from here. I can just move over to it. You'll notice the layers continue to add things to it, so I'm actually going to call this Artboard 1. All I did was click right on top of the words to change it. I'm going to hit this triangle next to it, and it's going to close it up so I won't have stuff on it. And I'm going to go to Artboard 2. If you want, you can also lock it. That keeps anything from messing with that other layer, and that's already been completed. You'll also notice if I try to do anything, like try to draw anything on there with that layer locked, see how my pencil comes up with a little circle with a line through it? It means I'm on a layer that's not editable. So that means I need to do something different. So I need to go to a layer that is editable. All right, let me go bring up my instructions again. We'll make sure that we completed what we said we were going to do for Artboard number 1. On Artboard number 1, we said that we're going to do it 8.5 by 11 by 3 artboards. Artboard number 1 need to have a 2 by 2 circle and square. You need to have a 5-point star, a 7-point star, a 10-point star, a triangle using the polygon tool. Each one need to have a different fill color and no outline. And we had to arrange them in an interesting design on the artboard. All right, so this one we're going to do 2 rectangles, 2 ellipses, 2 stars, 2 polygons. Notice it says or more, so you can have more. Each one's going to have a different size, color, or type of stroke. It'd be cool if you guys would add a different stroke to the different ones so I can see that you understand the strokes. Arrange them onto an interesting design. Combine them in a way that looks interesting. All right, here we go. Okay, so I'm just gonna try to draw them out to make sure I get all the elements, and then I'll have some fun placing them. So I need to have 2 rectangles. I need to have 2, did it say ellipses? Ellipses are not circles, right? Ellipses, okay. Ellipses. Okay. 2 stars. I'm going to add some more points to it by hitting the up arrow. I like it when it wants to help me. I didn't really ask for your help. Thanks. Okay. Add a couple extra points to that. And then I need to have some polygons. So we'll get a triangle. And then draw another one. And add a couple more points to it. Okay. All right. So I just created a bunch of different ones. Then we're going to actually add some different things to these to see if we can create some fun stuff with this. So let's pop through and add some different colors to these. Red, blue, puce. I think that's what that color is. Oh, it's not attractive. Okay, orange. Not attractive to me, I should say. Let's do a brown one. Purple. Yellow. And hot pink. Notice I can do the same thing over here, guys. I can change, sorry, no, see, it gets mad. Okay, there we go. Notice I can change my stroke from over here too. So what I'm doing up here, I can also do here. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you guys some stuff that you can do with your strokes. So I'm going to zoom in on this guy. And let's do a little bit of playing here. So first thing I want to do is I want to put a stroke on it. So let's go orange and blue. I'm from Denver, so Bronco colors. Go Broncos. Sorry, not a Bronco fan. Okay, I'm going to bump it up. Now you're going to notice right here this thing that has the lines. I'm going to go here to sit. This is called a little menu, a panel menu, or a flyout menu. Show options. Okay. So let me kind of click through this to show you some different things that we can do with our stroke. So first thing I want you to notice is I can play with the caps. This is generally for lines. This is for like an R shape where we have corners. So I can click on this, and what it does is it rounds off the corner. I can do this, and it squares off the corner. I can... Now what you'll notice when I do this one is right now, you'll notice the line is in the center. Let's see, it's a little bit more. If you hold on the space bar, and click on the space bar, it gives you the hand and you can move around. It doesn't interrupt the tool that you currently have selected. If you hold on the space bar, it just interrupts it so you can move things around. Okay. So notice that the line is in the center. Now if I click on this one, you'll notice the line's now on the outside, and now the line's on the inside. So I can play with this, and this gives me a little bit more control about where my stroke actually lies. Now right here, I can create a dashed line of my stroke. So right now this is 1 point, 1 point, 1 point, 1 point. Let's just say I make this one be 12 point, and this one be 8 point, and this one be 3 point, this one be 7 point, and this one be 4 point. So I'm creating a dashed line. Now this makes a cool coupon. Right? So I have this dashed line that's running around the outside of my object. So this is something else I can do with my lines to kind of create something interesting with it. I'm going to turn that off. Another thing I can do with it is right down here, I can add an arrowhead to it, which just shows up in the middle of the thingy in a random place. I can come down here and again play with my thick, thin, thick lines. So you'll see that has that same sort of effect the other one did. thin, thick, thin, thick. So you get some different kind of angles that go with that. Another fun one I can do is I can play with my brush strokes right here. So this will show up right here. So I'm going to click on my brushes. I can do some fun things with my brushes here. Now some of these actually come from my library. So each one of these panels that flies out has its own little library with it. So I have a separate one for symbols, a separate one for strokes. So I can do some fun borders. So let me do some geometric borders on this so you guys can see what that looks like. I can do some artistic ones. So this is brushes that we're working with right here. Do some chocolates. And then right down here are like the Wacom ones. And these ones you can actually kind of play with. And they're usually pressure sensitive. So I don't have a Wacom tablet hooked up right now, but you can hook these up and they're going to be a little bit more pressure sensitive. I can create my own brushes. Let me just show you that fun because it's super fun to do. So I'm going to create my own brush. Let me play with the colors on that. We'll leave orange on the outside and we'll change the fills to something different. Okay. Now I'm going to use my black arrow tool here to marquee over those. And then I can come up here. Here's a new brush. You can do them as scatter. You can do them as calligraphy. I'm going to do it as a scatter brush. And I can play with the way that it looks. So I can change the size and make the size be more random. I can change the spacing. I can change the scatter, and I can change the rotation so that it has sort of a play with it. And then I'm going to hit OK. So now it's a new brush stroke that I can apply to the object. So super fun. Now if I double click on that brush, I can come back in here and play with any of that stuff. I can do the same thing with any of these. Double click on it, and it gives me the opportunity to play with how my brush looks and how it flows and the color of it. So this one's got orange. I can come in here and play with the color. Maybe. Okay. Let's see what happens when I choose. I'll have to play with that more. Not something I do a lot of, but just so you guys know, you have control over these. And you can make changes to them as far as how they look and as far as the way that they flow, as far as their scatter. So this one made a scatter brush. So again, I'm going to click on that one. You guys can see that you can monitor that. If I want to make this be a little bit less random, I'm going to make the scatter be fixed. Preview it. Let's try making the spacing fixed. The size be fixed. Didn't make much change there. So I'll have to go back and play with that. But anyway, just so you guys know, you can make all kinds of fun changes to your strokes. So this particular one, you want to play with that and have different strokes that you apply. So let's just go through and try some different things with some of these strokes on these. And let's take that one and let's do a brush. And I want to make the brush stroke be, let's do yellow. Nope, can't see it. Purple. green. Okay, and on this one, let's do that. Now I can play with this a little bit. I can change my stroke over here to make that pattern be a little bit lighter. So let's take it up to about 0.5. Yeah. And then this one, maybe I'll do this stroke right here. And I'm going to turn that off of my preferences in just a second. I want to use maybe a dashed one in this one. I have a stroke on it. I don't have a stroke on it, so that would be why it's not responding. Purple and yellow. Bump it up. And then let's do a dash line. And then let's just make it be 12, 8, 12, 8, 12, 8. Okay. And then let's do this one. Like that. And then let's make the stroke on this be purple. Bump it up. And let's do the same dash line on that one. So they gotta go together. And then this one, let's do a thick, thin, thick. Let's get a stroke. Let's do green. Bump it up. And then let's do like a thick, thin, thick. And then what do we want to do with this one? Let's see. I'll give it a color. Let's give it hot pink. Pump it up. What should we do with this one? Any ideas? Well, it won't matter with the squaring off. Let's do a arrowhead. Okay, so now we have to find some intentional way of placing these. So let's just see. Let's maybe put these rectangles in the corners. They look like speakers to me. And let's take these stars. Well, that's it. And then let's see, let's take this guy right here. I'm not sure what to do with them, so I'm just kind of playing with them to see where I should put them. There isn't any rule in size on here, so let's just see if we can cross those over on those. Let's see. Yeah, I need to go turn that off. It's gonna make me nuts. Bye-bye. Okay. Now I don't have to worry about doing that anymore. Let's just see. Let's make this be big. And I'll just change my layers on that to make that work. I don't know how that's like just this. Okay. Just the inside. Looks a little bit like a face now. I'm always making faces. Like, that looks like a face to me. Kind of an ugly face, but it looks a little bit like a face. Maybe it's because I'm just human. I see a face in everything. I'll make it a cyclops. Okay, I need to go play with my layers a little bit because I've got a couple things that aren't showing up. So let's go back over here to our layers. And I'm going to move this guy down here a little bit lower so we can see that circle. And this guy, I'm going to kind of center it a little bit. I'm going to move the purple star on top of the yellow star. So it'll show up. Kind of ugly, but it's not kind of ugly, it is ugly. But everything, I mean, at least things have sort of a relationship to each other in there. Dang. I kind of don't want you to move. Just this guy. All right, let's go get our last little thingy. So that's artboard number 2. I'll close that one down. Let's go do artboard number 3. Double click where the letters are. Artboard. Now, there's something specific I have to do on artboard 3, and that I'm going to actually bring in an element in here, and we're going to actually have to convert it. So I'm going to create a new layer for that, and it's going to land inside of here. Okay, so this is going to be my last artboard, and I'm going to bring in an image. We're going to put it in here, and then we're going to see what's happening with it. So I'm going to go to File and Place. I'm going to go get Frequent Files, Assignment, and I'm going to do in the kitties because I did other ones last time. So let's do the kitty with the bow in her hair. Make her a little bigger. Let's set it on the artboard. Centered-ish. Generally, there's going to be little things that come up on your screen letting you know when you're kind of centered, but we'll just go with what we have. Okay, now we need to turn this layer into a template layer. Now what a template layer does is when you do a PDF of an article of something, or you save out the file in a non-AI format, non-Illustrator format, it will basically disappear. So I'm just going to double click on the image part of that layer. And I'm going to click right here where it says template. And it's going to dim it to 50%. You have a choice. I don't want to dim mine. I'm leaving mine at 100%. And then I can call it, I'll call it. And you'll notice that it has a square there instead. So that's one way that I know that it's a template layer. Now I'm going to take my artboard 3, I'm going to drag it up on top of it, and this one is now going to be my layer that I'm going to use as my example, so I can duplicate over the top of this. First thing you want to do as you're building your kitty, or your bear, or your chickie, is you want to notice what shapes you have. So this actually looks like an ellipse with some of the points kind of played with. This one looks like a rectangle with like some curves created. And then we have our little mouse and our little cheeks. So we're going to build the background first. I'm going to actually come up with an ellipse. And I'm going to drag it out to kind of create a little bit of a face. Now use a black arrow tool just to kind of get it placed in about the right location. It doesn't have any color on it, so it's going to look like it's going to disappear. I'm going to click right on the line. I'm going to match it up with the top of the head. I'm going to pull this down to match the bottom. Now I'm going to go get my white arrow tool I'm going to place these right here on the corners. Now, all I'm going to do is I'm going to take my handles and I'm going to push them in. Push this one in. Push this one in. Pull this one down. Okay, and I'm going to take this one, push this one down, push this one in. Push this one down. Come on, baby. Work with me. I can't see that part, so I'm just going to go with what I think it looks like. Okay. So now I have kind of the shape for the face there. Okay. Now I'm going to draw some ears. In just a second, I'm going to fill the head with some color. And there's some really easy ways to do this. So we're just going to use our eyedropper. Okay, so let's do our polygon. Let's pull it out. I'm going to hit the minus to get this down to a 3. Okay, I'm going to drag it over, black arrow tool. I'm going to rotate it. And pull it up. I'm going to use my white arrow tool and place things on top of where they're supposed to go. Now I need to make that be rounded, and I'll just kind of round out each one of these. So I'm just going to click on this convert arrow tool. It's underneath the pencil. So you'll have to go down here to the convert anchor tool. I can drag it out. And then round these just a little bit. Now, so there's some really cool tricks when we're working with Illustrator. Now, one of the really cool tricks is anything that we do, we can duplicate it. So when we have it showing up in 2 different locations, I can just duplicate that to make 2 of them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create this little inner part of the ear, and we're going to duplicate it and place it over here. Okay? So I'm going to use my black arrow tool. If you duplicate it like it is right here, it's only going to duplicate that point. So I need to click off of it, choose the black arrow tool to select it. I'm going to go to File. I'm sorry, go to Object, Transform, and Scale. I'm going to click on the preview right here. I'm going to have it, let me try going down to 50%. Hit the tab. It's pretty close. Let's try 45. All right, that's pretty close. I'm going to copy that. Okay. And I'm just going to use my white arrow tool. Place the points right on top. Now there's no color on it, which is why it's kind of disappearing a little bit. We'll put some color on it in just a second. Show that in. Okay, so now I'm going to hit I for eyedropper. I'm going to click on the inside of that. It's going to fill that one with color. I'm going to choose the outside of the ear. Hit I for eyedropper. And get color on that part. So now I've created my ear. So I'm going to duplicate that, and I'm actually going to click on the inside and click on the outside, and I'm going to group it. So let me drop this down so you can see what it's going to do inside of here. I'm going to go to Command G for Object Group, and you'll notice now that those 2 pieces of the ear are duplicated. Now, here's our magic. If you hold down the Alt or Option key while you're on top of here, you'll see that it gets a little black arrow on top of a white arrow. And that's showing me that I'm duplicating. So I just keep it held down while I click and drag, and I've just duplicated my ear. So I can do this a couple ways. I can go up here to Object, Transform, and reflect. I'm just telling it to reflect. I can also copy it this way as well. So it's another way of getting it done. But I already duplicated it, so I didn't need to. And I'm going to hit OK. I'm just going to drag it and drop it on top of this ear. Bam, just like that. Rotate it maybe a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to now, I can name these if I want to. So this group, I'm going to call this one right here. And this one left ear. Okay, cool. All right, now if I want to, I can color in the face just to give it some color. I'm just going to use eye for eyedropper. I'm going to grab the color. Now, I don't really want that to be sticking out because I can't see what's underneath it. So I'm just going to turn it off. So hit the eyeball to turn it off for a second while you take care of that. Okay. So this right here looks a little bit like a rectangle to me. So I'm going to pull out a rectangle. I'm going to draw out that rectangle like that. I'm going to flip the stroke in the fill just so I can see a little color on that. I'm going to rotate this. Shift it over just a little bit. Come on, baby. Shift there. So that matches up with the tip right there. Use my white arrow tool. Move it on top of there. Move it on top of there. Move it on top of there. Okay. Convert these. You do have to watch it when you pull it out that you pull it the right direction or it crosses over. So I'm just going to convert that like that and just lay that down on top of there. Lay this one on top of here. Take this one and pull it out. Shove that one in. That. I'm always making sound effects, my apologies. Okay. Take that one and shove that in. That. Just a hair to round that off. Okay. I'm going to hold off just a second and draw this so I can get these pieces completed. Okay, there's a triangle. Oh, that's my cat. He's telling us a story. Sometimes he wakes himself up. Hit the minus to make this be a triangle. Doesn't want to do that, so Command C. Just use polygon. There's my triangle. Could just pull the ear there too. That actually probably would have been beneficial. Come on. Come on. Huh, weird. There we go. Now you're acting normal. Okay. Convert those points. Place them right on top. Play with my hand a little bit. going to hit Command or Control plus so I can see what I'm doing here. That's pixeling, so you guys see that kind of funky edge, that's pixeling. When you hit your cursor over the top of an anchor point, it will change color. So if I click off of it, you guys will see right there, it's an anchor point. Okay, nicely here. There we go. Okay. I just hit the eyedropper. Okay, you guys to get this little smiley mouth thingy here. What I can do is I can like use a spiral tool, line arc tool. I can do this lots of different ways. Let's see. What do we want to do? Let's do this as the easiest way for me to do this would be a pen tool. Let's just try to do this as an ellipse. Let's just see if we can create this using an ellipse. We're going to duplicate it, so we only create it once and duplicate it. Okay, use my white arrow tool. Build this down like this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to actually add a couple extra points to this. Just flip my stroke and my fill. So I can get that little curve up on the ends on that one side. And maybe I'll add a point on both sides. Okay, so right underneath here is my add anchor point tool. So I can add a couple points. And the point over here. Just tell me I'm not clicking on a line. No, I'm almost in this one. No, I think so. Left it. Wow, it's acting a little weird today. Little bit weird. This guy right there. This guy here. Here. Let's spread this one off a little bit. That. Right down. I'm trying to just stick with shapes on this, so I would have just used the pen tool probably. Let's do like that. The less points you use, the smoother the line generally is. So it's not great to have a 5 gazillion points in there because it kind of makes things kind of start and stop a little bit. Okay, we'll go black. I'm just going to duplicate it. I'm actually going to do it this way this time. So I'm going to reflect. And I'm going to do it that way. I'm going to copy it. Oops. I didn't have the whole thing selected. That's why it acted weird. Object. Transform. Reflect. Copy. Oop. Okay. I'm going to show you a little bit about how to use the shape builder here in just a sec. Let me turn off that for a sec. And turn off the nose for a sec. Okay, I'm just going to grab a rectangle. Shape builder is cool because it combines things together. So we've been grouping things, but this is another way of grouping things together. Okay, so shape builder is located right here. And what we're going to do is we're going to choose the things we want to combine together. So it's going to make it actually one full shape. We're going to use our shape builder. I'm just going to click and drag over it and everything that's in the path. And now it's all one unit, just like that. I can still use my white arrow tool to modify things. All right, here's the nose. Here's the pink part of the mouth. So I'm going to click on this shape right here. I'm going to use the eyedropper and grab the pink. And zoom out. Command Control minus. So if you look at what we have right now so far, and I turn off my template, you can see this is what I have. We'll go just a little bit longer just to see if I can get a little bit more of it completed. And then if anybody wants to come hang out with me tomorrow night at 7 p.m., which would be an hour later than what it is right now, or I'll be around at 11:30 on Wednesday, you guys can come hang out with me then I will help you do this if you get stuck. Okay, so let's go grab your lips. Drink this out. Use my tool to line up a little bit. Use my eyedropper to grab the color. Go to Object, Transform, Reflect, Copy. Black arrow tool and hit V on the keypad. It's just my keys on my computer. As long as I'm not using type at the moment, it will just work fine. Okay. Let's make one of these. I need to go square off the top and bottom of that a little bit. And just a little bit. Black arrow tool. Okay. I'm just going to duplicate. I'm going to hold down the Alt or Option key. Actually, we fill it with black first. Eyedropper. Okay. V on the keypad. Hold down the Alt or Option key to duplicate it. Just like that. And then you can create your eyelashes. Maybe we can just use the line tool to get this lash. And then maybe we'll use the arc tool to get this lash. Okay, I'm going to put a black stroke on it. I probably should have combined it together. Let me get rid of the other eyeball. We'll just duplicate the eye. Make it black instead of grayish colored. Okay, on the eyelashes, what we're going to do is we're going to actually bump up the stroke a little bit. Let's do about a 6-point stroke. Alrighty then, doesn't want to play, so let's do it this way. Cut the eye. Transform. Select. Copy. The thing I can do is I can always group the eyelash, so I can go to Object and Group. The same thing with this one, just so I can move it around, not worry about it. Moving. Object Group. There's my little eyelashes. There's my background. So the only thing I would have to do in order to finish this off is to create the, oh, okay, sorry, Kristen, I didn't see your email, your message. Do you have any apps or whatever, have projects that you learned to practice on? Things like our assignments do. What would you like to practice on, Kristen? What would you like specifically to learn? There's a game that Carly uses in her Photoshop to help learn the pen tool. We're going to be doing more of that next week. This is more just about shapes. Go ahead.
I learn about all of it because I'm new to all this, so I need more practice with it.
I got you. What I would say to you is just do what we're doing, like on, if you want to, just to practice, just go through each of the different animals and look at the different shapes and just pull them out and play with the points and just modify them from there. I think that's your best bet in order to kind of learn to be a little bit more comfortable with how you use the shapes. Next week, we're going to be doing the pen tool, and I can look for Carly's pen tool game. It's like a little game that you use to draw different shapes with the pen tool.
I've been practicing on a little sketch pad that I downloaded, and I'm learning a little bit on it, but I guess I need to practice more on Photoshop or whatever this one is, Illustrator. So, all right, I'll just practice on those. Thanks.
Yeah, I don't have any magic for those. I mean, it's just going to be a matter of just practicing with it. I think if you can learn, Kristen, to play with these little guys, these little things up here with the pencil where you add your move points, where you convert the straight line point to a curved point. It goes the opposite direction too. So if I have it selected while I have a curved line and I click on a point, it's going to make that be straight. So there's a lot that you can do with this to help create each one of those. But I think for practice purposes, and that's kind of what this is meant to do, is to give you practice with those tools, is to just go in there and maybe work on as many of those different shapes as you can. Kristen, are you available?
Extra, but I'll make do.
Well, I'm here tomorrow night, and I'm here at Wednesday at 11:30. So if you want to come in, what I oftentimes do with the student's permission, if they want me to do it or not, I mean, it's completely their choice. I record it for the other students so that they have a chance to see what the other student, you know, the way another student did it, and I just talk you through it. So that's what happens in the multi-sessions. I'm just here and I help you work through your assignments.
Okay, what time? Tomorrow night?
So tomorrow night would be basically an hour from now. So whatever time zone you're in.
Central, so it'll be about
8 p.m. your time. And I'm in Mountain Time, so I mean 7 p.m. your time. No. Yeah, 8 p.m. your time. My time will be 7 p.m. on Mountain Time.
Yeah, okay.
And then I'll be here at 11:30 or 12:30 your time on Wednesday.
Okay. I could probably do either one.
Yeah, so either one. What I'd like you to do is practice with it a little bit and see how you do, and then come to me with your questions and let me come help you.
All right, I'll start doing this tonight.
Yeah, practice with it, and then I can play, and we can. That's kind of the way those multi-sessions are. I'm set up to work with you guys one-on-one. You can learn from each other in the process by being there. But I don't necessarily teach a class like this on Tuesday or Wednesday. I'm just here more to help you guys one-on-one or whoever comes. And I'm happy to do that. That's my job. So that's what I'm here to do.
Okay. Well, I see it's a little different than the Photoshop class last mod, but I enjoyed that one, so hopefully.
If you draw at all, this is going to be a blast to you.
I really don't draw.
Okay. I don't draw either, but this is the only way I draw, and I'm telling you, this is my favorite program. This is the way I get to be artistic, is by using Illustrator. Illustrator gives me the chance to be artistic in a way that I'm not able to be because I don't draw. So you may find this to be super fun for that purpose as well.
Hopefully so.
Yeah, I think it's a very fun class, and it's a very fun application, and there's just a ton of stuff to do in here. So yeah, practice and see how you do, and I'm here to help you.
Okay, well, thank you.
Yeah. What other questions do you have? Anybody else have a question, or Kristen, any other questions you have? If somebody wants to come in and I can record it, then I can show a little bit more about how to use Shape Builder too, because that's a really beneficial tool. All right, nothing else? No other questions? Okay, I'm gonna stop the recording real quick, and then if you guys have anything else, I can